Susan Collins wrote legislation that made millions for her husband's lobbying firm. Collins also helped us prepare for a pandemic. Submission from 10 years ago. Senator Susan Collins is still bragging on her website about her role in stripping pandemic preparedness funds from the stimulus package. https://old reddit.com/r/politics/comments/senator_susan_collins_still_bragging_on_her/. More recent submission. As coronavirus grips US, critics remember Susan Collins' insistence pandemic flu funding be cut from 2009 stimulus package. Senator Collins went out of her way to stop funds from going to pandemic preparedness, and now Mainers are concerned because of Collins' history of opposing funding. https://old reddit.com/r/politics/comments/fi9035/as_coronavirus_critics_remember_Susan/. We should have a website that documents possible conflicts of interest, and then confront politicians with their conflicts of interest when they vote on things that they will personally benefit from. Mornin' Mainers. I believe you can do much better than this Collins motherfucker. Finally, Collins' reform bill required USAID to revise its strategy to address acquisition problems in Afghanistan. In 2013, the year after Collins left the Senate Homeland Security Committee, Jefferson Consulting secured a $49 million contract with USAID for procurement support services, according to government spending records. 2 years later, the firm announced it had landed a $33 million acquisition contract with USAID. Does every Republican grift and pillage this country? It seems so. GOP grifting at its finest. Vote her out. Corporate Republicans gonna corporate. The question is, do Mainers think Susan Collins learned her lesson? The worst kind of wretched human, the one who pretends to have morals. Sen. Susan Collins, our Maine, who finds herself trailing Democratic challenger Sarah Gideon in a hotly contested election battle with national implications, wrote contracting reforms as a member of the Senate Government Affairs Committee that appear to have directly benefited the lobbying and consulting firm of her future husband's lobbying and consulting firm. While that firm had some contracts that coincided with Collins' tenure on the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, it also landed a major $48 million contract with the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, in 2013, the year after Collins stepped away from that committee. I get to vote against her. Small victories in these uncertain times. I think she had learned a pretty big lesson from this. Susan Collins is arguably one of the more genial Republicans as a person. But she is a standard Republican by policy. And that is why she is unfit to serve. Join r/vote DEM, support down ballot Democratic candidates and help get grifters like Collins out of elected office. Coat hanger Collins is a POS out for herself? Who woulda thought? Confirmed shitty person. Can I just say? Of fucking course she's married to the head of a lobbying firm. Which is fucking amazing, because as a Maine, I'm constantly bombarded with smear commercials against millionaire Sarah Gideon that depict her as a got dragons. It's some real Parks and Rec bullshit. Her husband's lobbying firm. How the fuck isn't that a conflict of interest? Why is out whole fucking government owned by corporations? Let's not forget her part in the USPS pre-funding of pensions. She's trash all around. How many more times are we going to find out after it's too late that politicians are committing federal offenses? Why do these scumbags get to stick around? The moment she supported Trump, I knew her name and what type of trash she was. She slightly favor our to lose, but PLS make sure she actually does. What a horrible politicians. You can't make this shit up. Her husband works for a lobbying firm. He was the fucking coup. Let that marinate. How is that not forbidden? So sick of this. Call me naive, but public service is not a meal ticket. You don't have a right to the position. It's not supposed to grease your own goddamn wheels. She is such a piece of shit. If her husband is unemployable anywhere else, then too fucking bad. There is nothing unfair about disqualifying yourself from public service, or being expected to operate at a higher standard. She's old as fuck, rich as fuck, and it's still not enough. Disgusting, and this is why so many other developed countries have conflict of interest laws in place. Like not allowing a businessman to serve the interests of his companies while sitting as president, so it is okay to personally enrich yourself or your family through your job as a government representative. Why is this allowed? Why is no one having to resign, go to jail or pay back the money they earned through their corruption? Lying about conflict of interest needs to have consequences. Congress, the Supreme Court, the executive branch, burn it all to the ground and let's start over. But Aoki paid for her own expensive haircut. So I guess we're even. A Republican with a conflict of interest? No way. We'll never understand why it's called lobbying instead of just straight up bribing. How the fuck is this legal? Vote her out, mega trash. This is what they do. This is why they want to get into office and then hang on to it for 40 years. Term limits. After we get rid of Trump, we really need to discuss this whole Senate thing. Term limits. Conservatism is always on the wrong side of history. Only the very ignorant still support those draconian policies. Money out of politics. Of course she did. Sweet centrist Susan is a fucking slimeball who thrives by playing both sides. She has to go. Really, all corporate whores have to go. All the Republicans, some of the Democrats, Senator Mary's lobbyist, what could go wrong? She's a piece of shit. Please God she goes in November. So Susan Collins stopped by my place of work on Friday. She did a tour and a speech and all that BS. Anyway, I was surprised to see she was just driving some mid-range SUV. I guess she knows enough not to flaunt the wealth she grifted off of the people in Maine. It reminded me of how little some Republicans received to sell out their constituents over net neutrality. The government, any party, is going to absolutely implode now unless they go balls to the wall cracking down on corruption. Trump has opened Pandora's box for it being ignorable. Making money off lobbying firms wouldn't even be a thing if we just reduced the amount of unchecked influences the government has. People wouldn't be paying millions if the government didn't have any power to give. Statists hate that answer but get upset when their system consistently doesn't work. I always find it interesting that people register shock and confusion over things that occurred in events like the French or Soviet revolutions when so many of the ruling class were done away with and that people cheered it on. How much misery does one group of people get to rain down on the rest of the population before something heinous happens to them in return? It's weird that they don't see this. She's such a POS. Let's drain the swamp so I can make my own swamp and fill it with lots more alligators and more snakes and tons of mud. There will never be peace or clarity. Good for her, smart business people do that. A Trump supporter. Surprise, one hand washes the other. This is why Susan Collins always votes in line with the Republicans. She is a dirty individual. Hopefully Maine can excise this malignant tumor of New England politics in November. Get the money out of politics. No one should be able to enrich themselves in office. That appear to have directly benefited the lobbying and consulting firm of her future husband's lobbying and consulting firm. There is some great writing in the story that also features great writing. Reading all this from US, don't you have any law and order left in your country? Wait. Her husband is a fucking lobbyist. Can we finally put to rest any notion that Collins is a moderate?